Apyayantu mamangani vakranashakshushotamatho balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam mama brahma nirakarot anirakaranam astvadnirakaranam me astu tadatmani nirate yaupanishatsu dharmaste mai santu te mai santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Verse 4 to 12 is the central teaching of Krishna's message pertaining to creation. And it's one of the most important few verses in the Gita because it actually implicitly reveals the Mahavakya, a great statement of your true nature. So a lot of details to discuss. So it discusses the nature of Ishwara, and we call this Ishwara Swarupam. That means the nature of Ishwara. So one thing to remember is that the teaching that we're about to learn is entirely based on the Upanishads. We have to understand there is no such teaching as Krishna philosophy. Everything comes from the Upanishads. Everything's already written, everything's already complete, and Krishna is just going to elaborate it in a much more simple way for the common man, which isn't that simple, but it's still quite comprehensive, and that's what we're going to learn. So the Upanishads say that Ishwara is Jagat Karanam. This means Ishwara is the cause of the universe. And everything that is created requires or has a twofold cause. The first cause or fold is the raw material. So what we're talking about now is how do you create anything from the smallest to the biggest? You need twofold. First is the raw material. For example, suppose you have a wooden desk. Obviously you need the actual tree, the material, and the material is required for it to be worthy of being called a desk later on, after someone puts some intelligence into it, of course. So the first principle is called Upadana Karanam. Karanam means directly cause. So that's the word, Upadana Karanam. Okay, now the second fold, suppose you have a bark or a tree and you put it in a shack and you put some nails in the shack. Now 3 days later, you come back in the shack and then somehow the metal, the nails and the bark has magically arranged themselves and now you have a ready-made table. Is that the case? No. So obviously the raw materials by themselves is not going to create of themselves something that is useful, something that is functional. So far we have established that the raw material is insufficient for creation. We need something else. Okay, also with cooking ingredients, for example. Suppose you buy some cooking ingredients and you put it in the kitchen, you come back after class or after work, and voila, there's a dinner ready. It will be fantastic, right? But that's not the case. So the raw material by themselves is not enough. And to make something of that raw material, you therefore need an intelligent cause. That's the second fold. The intelligent cause is called Nimitta Karanam. So what does the intelligent cause do? It converts the raw material into an appropriate effect. Why did I say appropriate? Because it's not just any effect, it's actually a functional, useful effect which has a purpose to to the species or to something that depends on it. So for that, you need to have an appropriate effect. You can't just make a mess and then go, there, use it. It needs to be functional. So this obviously means that the intelligence has to firstly understand for whom it is creating, because that one who would depend on its creation obviously needs to use it. So the parent needs to understand the child for the child to use the parent's creation. So every creation, from the smallest to the biggest, requires the material and the intelligent cause. For example, the shirt, we'll take one creation. The shirt has two principles behind it. So this is the final product. This is called creation. The one is the weaver, intelligent cause. The second is what? The cotton. Let's take a house, a room. So the room has what? An architect, that's an intelligent cause, and it has the material which make up the house. So these two principles are required. So now the Upanishads point out that Ishwara, who is now both the material and the intelligent cause, alone, so Ishwara alone existed before creation, or existed before creation came to be. In other words, before creation, space and time, which is also inclusive of creation, before that, God alone is. God alone was. Now there's a problem. We'll just propose a problem. Suppose you say Ishwara is only the intelligent cause. Then the question is going to be, then what about the material cause? Likewise, if you say Ishwara is only the material cause, then you're going to propose the question, then what about the intelligent cause, right? So how does the Shastra solve this? Vedanta simply makes a statement, Ishwara is thus both the intelligent and the material cause.
In potential.
So
I'm going to use the word potential now.
Is Ishwara now referring to Brahman
Yeah,
or to
that's
the
what
judgment?
Don't use the word Brahman. If I wanted to use the word Brahman, I would have used it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm using words precisely. So from the standpoint of the intelligent cause, Ishwara is the creator. From the standpoint of the material cause, Ishwara, God himself, evolves into creation. Another doubt's going to come up. How can God evolve himself into creation? Careful now, I know what's going to come up. So then you're saying that evil and good has also evolved into creation. We'll put that at rest right now. Imagine you have a saint and a sinner standing next to each other. The saint is breathing air. The sinner is breathing the same air. The saint breathes the air in order to what? Help people. The sinner breathes the same air to what? Hurt people. Therefore, the air remains innocent. It remains simply as a provision, as a resource for everyone to use. How I choose to use that air is entirely up to me. Show me one court case where the criminal says, sorry, I'm not responsible, I was breathing air. Go and blame air. It's just irrational, there's no sense there. In other words, now to say that Ishwara is the evil or the good, it is incorrect. Ishwara simply provides the resources for us to use from our own accord, that is our own free will. Another objection is going to arise now. How can you say Ishwara can be both the intelligent and the material cause? I don't experience that in my life. They're two different things. Show me one thing where the material and the intelligent person are together, right? You either have the rice or the cook. The cook, the intelligent cause, borrows the rice from a different part of the world. In fact, it gets shipped over to the cook. So where's the how can you say they're the same? They have nothing to do with each other. The architect and the raw materials, it's nothing to do with each other. You see the problem? So how can you now say that Ishwara is both the intelligent and the material cause? So the Shastra, in particularly Mundaka Upanishad will say that every example has an exception. The Mundaka Upanishad will say every species will use a raw material to build a house. For example, a bird will use the straw to build a nest for itself. Men use a bunch of bricks and mortar to build a nice house for themselves. So the bird goes over, looks around, borrows materials, and he makes a fantastic house. Maybe puts a few disco lights in and, for entertainment and so on. If you observe anywhere, any species would generally use materials from elsewhere. However, as Vishal said, already going ahead, a spider is frankly a fascinating animal. Is it an animal? A species? Insect. Did you know there's a golden orb spider? If you know, it makes a funnel that is 5 times more stronger than metal. They're using it for vests now, for replacing Kelvar bulletproof vests with spider's web. So the spider does what? How does it build its own little house? Does it go up to another spider and purchases some web? No.
It generates its own snot, whatever it is.
Yeah, imagine that. Can I buy some web? For what? For my web? Well, use your own web, right? So in other words, the spider will use its own web, its own material, out of whom? Itself. So the spider in this example is both the intelligent and the material cause. Shastra calls this one cause happens to be both the intelligent and the material. One and the same, like the spider. This is called abhina, nimitta, upadana, karanam. That means it's both nimitta and upadana. It is both intelligent and material. So in the same way, Ishwara is both. Out of itself, it uses the raw materials to intelligently create this product that we're now experiencing. Literally is a product. You're experiencing a product. Just like, for example, when a man makes a product out of what? Raw materials and his or her intelligence. And then whom is the product for? Whomever is going to benefit from it. That means man's products, man's creation serves a purpose. The bee's product serves a purpose. For whom? For the bees. Of course, now they also serve human beings. So in other words, whatever is created is a product in itself, and that product serves those who depend on it. This is just the nature of creation when you have both causes, the raw and the intelligent. The next question is, what is now the nature of this Ishwara who is both causes? The answer is, the nature has 2 parts. One is para, the higher nature, and the lower, the inferior nature. Don't look at the word inferior as in degradatory. The lower or the inferior nature is called apara. That means para prakriti and apara prakriti. This word prakriti I'm going to put away, but whenever I say from now on para and apara, I'm actually saying apara prakriti, para prakriti, because they said it's too long. So for the sake of understanding para and apara, we will now enumerate a few commonalities that they share and uncommonalities. What is common and uncommon between them? This will help you to understand what is para and apara. Because what are we now talking about? Para and apara. And what did I say? What's the nature of God? Para and apara. So if you want to understand God, you better understand what para and apara means. You understand? And to understand God is what? To understand yourself. The one single and only common feature of both para and apara. Both are eternal. Nitya. They're both beginningless. They never began. There's no beginning to them. Neither can be created nor destroyed. You cannot destroy para, nor can you destroy apara. I know you're asking what is para and apara. We'll get to that. For example, you got the law of conversation of energy and matter. Even science will say you can never destroy anything. For example, a candle that burns out, has it actually disappeared or has it gone into a different state? You know the answer, right? So there is a candle and now it's gone. Where is it gone? it's transformed into vapor, into a different energy. So therefore the energy has never been destroyed in the first place. It looks like it, but it hasn't actually gone anywhere. So conclusion, para and apara are both eternal, that is nitya. Nitya means permanent. So this is the next topic. There are many uncommon features mentioned in the Upanishads, in fact dozens, over hundreds of them, but we can all put them underneath four major ones that pretty much embody all of them. Para, Prakruti, is the conscious principle. Chetana Tattvam. Chetana means conscious, Tattvam principle. And this consciousness, this conscious principle, can never be created nor destroyed. So therefore, consciousness equals para, and para equals consciousness. Apara is the matter principle, the material cause. Matter is called jadaha. So let's do a comparison. Apara equals spirit. I'm not talking about I see spirits out there, because to see, it means what? I'm to perceive. You cannot perceive consciousness. So para equals spirit, apara equals matter. Para equals consciousness, apara equals inert. Because raw material, i.e. apara, is what? Inert, which doesn't have any consciousness. Therefore, it is inert, like a rock or a tree, or even a human being who is dead. Okay, and both the consciousness and this matter can never be destroyed, and consciousness and matter mixture is called Ishwara. So obviously, I'm not talking about Brahman. The second one is para Prakruti. In its original condition, is without attributes. No characteristics. You can't define it. Nirguna svarupam, without gunas. What is apara? The material cause is therefore saguna svarupam. It is with gunas. Any kind of laws, physical laws, chemical laws, electrical laws, electromagnetic laws, any kind of law you can think of in your head about anything in any regards is apara. Also, for example, field of science only deals with what? Apara. You cannot study consciousness. You can't put it underneath a microscope through any kind of instrument because it is just consciousness. What is there to see? So for science, consciousness remains a mystery. But for Vedanta, we say it's not a mystery at all.
What's meant when it said that consciousness knows itself?
It's self-aware.
That's its nature.
Yeah, because Sat Chit, that is, it's existent and it's aware, that it's self-evident of its own existence. For example, you're now aware of your own existence. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're conscious. Okay. Yeah, because who's there to validate or identify anything that's presented? There needs to be a stopping point. Boom. That quote, stopping point is consciousness. And the only way to know consciousness is how? Because remember, you can only know para. So you can only know apara. You cannot know para. Why? You cannot know consciousness. So how do you know consciousness if you cannot know consciousness? There's another answer. How do you know your nature if you cannot know your nature? Because to know your nature is to objectify your nature into something that is presented to your mind. I used an example a couple of sessions ago. Own up. Own up to the fact that you already are it. It's about knowledge, not experience. You understand?
So you can only know consciousness through knowledge.
That's right. As the only access to consciousness is through knowledge. It cannot be experienced. Why? The why is always more important. What did we just say about creation? Para and apara. So to know consciousness means what? What is consciousness? Para. So to know consciousness means what? It is not here now. But what do we say about everything? Para and apara. Therefore, to try to experience para is to imply that para is not here now in creation. You see that mistake? That's why it's through knowledge alone. That's why I say the only way is to own up to what is already the case. Point 3. The Upanishads say or point out that para is free from all modifications, all alterations, variances. It never undergoes any changes under any condition, no matter what. And whatever changes you're talking about is at what? At the matter level only, apara only. At the level of what? Body, mind, and world. So whatever you want to talk about always has to do with your body, your mind, and the world. What are these three? Apara alone. Para Prakruti is without modification, nirvikara tatvam. Nirvikara, that means without modification. Nir always means without. They said nirvikalpa. Koko said nirvana, that is without sorrow. Nirguna, without gunas. Huh? Yeah, you can just put nir anything you want. It's the same as neti neti. Na iti. And apara is subject to constant modification. Savikara. Remember, nothing in creation so far, or at any time, is stationary. Even the swallow that looks so innocently, it's not bugging anyone. You look at this thing underneath an appropriate instrument, it is just a violent storm of electrons, protons, constantly interacting with each other. Nothing is stationary in creation, despite it looking like it is. Why? Because creation is para, the unchanging, and apara, the constantly modifying, moving principle. There's also a nice book called The Tao of Physics. You know this book? Tao of Physics. Excellent book. Yeah. They use, Nataraja, the dancing. Fantastic, right? So the author uses Nataraja to show the eternal, harmonious, material dance of creation, right? So it's an excellent a symbol of apara, who is also pervaded by what? Para. Because they're always together, remember? You can't ever have apara alone. Because why? Ishwara, the ultimate cause, Jagat Karanam, is para and apara. Therefore, whatever you can think of is both. Point 4. Para is satyam, independently existing. It doesn't depend on anything else. Okay, when is it independently existing? All the time it's independent. It's never not independent. It's the conscious principle. Chetana tatvam. Chetana means conscious. And apara, if the first one is chetana, then this one has to be what? Achetana. Inert. So apara is inert or matter. So para is conscious, apara is unconscious. As good as saying inert. And apara depends on para for everything. Para is the absolute, totally free, self-sufficient, self-dependent. It is satyam. Remember satyam, satya mitya? Apara is mitya. Mitya means dependent. For example, imagine a tree in a forest who proudly takes ownership of its existence. It's proud to be a tree in a forest. So there's many other trees, and there's one tree in there that's like, this is my existence. I'm enjoying my existence here. What is that tree depending on? The soil. You dig that soil underneath the tree, and that tree, who just a moment ago used to take ownership of its existence, can now be what? Falsified. Why? Because through the course of time, that tree is going to be no more. So therefore, mithya means dependent reality. So this tree is mithya. Why is it mithya? Because it depends on the soil. Now the soil can do the same thing. He can go, I love being the soil, right? But what does the soil depend on? The entire continent. Now the continent can go, I love being Australia. But what does Australia depend on? So it can keep going infinitely. That's what mithya means. Anything that depends on something can be falsified. How? By removing its parent. Therefore the parent supports it. You remove the parent, this dies. But the parent itself has its own parent. From that aspect, the parent becomes a child. So it's a constant parent-child relationship. So you put both of these together, and that is called Ishwara, the cause of the universe. How do we explain this in a little bit more down-to-earth manner? Imagine para is pure, clean air. The healthiest, divine, pristine air that you can breathe. It is what? Neutral, it is colorless. But when you introduce a fragrance into this air, now this air has what? Both. The purity of the air and the fragrance. What did I say about apara? It depends on para for everything. That fragrance can only be known how? By the presence of the air. In other words, a comparison, para is like air, that which holds, makes possible for everything else to have its chance to express itself, for the fragrance to be smelled, to the color to be shown. Para and apara put together equals Ishwara. 4 points summary. Para is the conscious principle, Chetana Tattvam. Apara is the inert principle, Achetana Tattvam. Inert means without consciousness. Number 2, para is without attributes, Nirguna Swarupam. Apara is with characteristics, Saguna Swarupam. Number 3, para is without modification or alteration or variances in any shape or form or size, Nirvikara Tattvam. And apara is continually modified, continually, persistingly, non-stop, Savikara Tattvam. Para is Satyam, and apara is Mithya. Satyam means independently existing, and Mithya means dependently existing. Questions so far?
Isn't this just the normal Satya-Mithya relationship?
Right from the beginning, I pretty much gave away the entire Vedanta just with Satya-Mithya. Everything after that is just reiterated from a different angle. So there's no contradiction. Para is nimitta karanam. Apara is upadana karanam. Now, everything I said, let's tie para and apara into the evolution of creation. So before evolution of creation, that means before there was nothing yet, okay? At this point, there's nothing. Ishwara alone exists as what? Para and apara. We've already established that, yeah? So the apara is now in potential, of course. Para cannot be potential. Why? What did I say? Apara depends on para. Apara is what? Mithya depends on satyam. And out of Ishwara takes place the evolution of creation. That's the short answer. So before creation, Ishwara alone is, and out of Ishwara, you have the final product. In the Upanishads, we actually have different expressions and different methods of answering this question. Hundreds of them. Chandogya, Prashna Upanishad, very different. In the Gita, we're going to present this in 2 stages. Stage 1 of creation. Seed, everything is in seed state. Potential. Out of the seed state, the plant comes. So far, what I described is called the intermediary stage. We are not at the physical creation yet. Seed plant equals intermediary stage. Now the next stage, stage 2, what happens to the plant? It naturally evolves. It grows into what? A full-blown tree. And a tree of itself has beautiful creation. It's a beautiful complex structure. And that took time, did it not? So I just gave you a simple analogy. Creation is exactly the same as I just described in this model. Seed, plant, so far that's intermediary stage, and then full-blown creation as we have right now. Okay, so Krishna says that creation comes in 2 stages. Stage 1, you have 1 para and 1 apara. That's it. 1 apara what? Just keep it at that. I can say 1 unit of para, 1 unit of apara, but just remove the word unit. This stage is called the stage of dissolution. Pralayanam. There was a word there, pralayanam, somewhere. Total dissolution. There is nothing. The creation has not come yet. There's not even the intermediary state.
So dissolution in this context means doesn't exist, but has the potential to
Seed
exist.
state.
Yeah, he answered it.
Sorry, material or immaterial seed state? I don't understand that. Is that non-existent or existent?
No, okay, is a tree existent in a seed?
The potential is, yeah.
Yeah, because you wait for a few couple of years and it grows into a tree. So just because I can't see the tree in a seed doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So it does exist, but it's in what? Potential. So we're not at intermediary stage yet, you understand? One para and one apara is not intermediary. Intermediary stage is stage 2. What happens in stage 2 is one apara multiplies into an 8-fold apara, Prakruti. It multiplies itself. Very simple metaphor. For example, the male sperm finds the egg. One sperm finds the egg, and they join, and it's called now a zygote. A zygote. You know a zygote? Now a zygote, what happens then? Begins, so now so we had 1 and 1. They join together, and then now we have one single called zygote. It starts to divide into 2, 4, 8, and so on through the process of mitosis. That's the language, in that field. It's the same thing. One para, one apara. What happens to the one apara is it multiplies into 8. If the apara splits into 8, what happens to the para?
Phase 1
Huh?
remains as 1.
Excellent. Absolutely nothing happens to it. Because we said para is consciousness. And what do we say about consciousness in those 4 parts?
Unchanging.
It's not subject to modification. Therefore, it cannot divide. It cannot be divided. Okay, so far, consciousness, the para remains 1, unmodified, unchanged, untouched, and one apara has multiplied itself into 8. This is called intermediary stage, stage 2. And this stage is still what? Before creation. This is not physical creation yet. It is in just subtle form. Okay, now in stage 3, you have the final explosion, the final magnification. That's when the physical, the final product that you're experiencing right now comes. So you're experiencing stage 3 right now. That's when the 8-fold apara multiplies into infinite fold of the universe that you see now. As everything, as every periodic table of the elements, everything you know of comes from where? 8-fold apara. And that 8-fold apara comes from 1-fold apara. Okay, give me some examples of apara. Are you an example of apara as a body? Mind? Yeah? The one who's hearing this question now, the one who's processing this data is now apara. And that principle which is aware of this, this apara is para.
So the 5 elements.
Yeah, 5 elements. So apara is 5 elements. That's one of those 8. One factor of those 8. So let's do a quick summary. You have apara divides into 8-fold apara. That 8-fold apara divides into infinitude of multiplicity, whose total we call what? The universe. So whatever you're experiencing at any moment of time is what? Apara, aspect of Ishwara. Even shaking your head is also muscles moving up and down. All of that apara. Smiling apara. The pen that's being writing this down apara. This board apara. Air you're breathing apara. And what do we say about para? Untouched. Nothing happens to it. Okay, question. Where is para now?
Trick question.
Where is it? Let's find it.
It's nowhere and everywhere.
Well, yeah, everywhere at once.
It's not.
Anywhere it wants to.
It's you. I take it personally. It's you. The jiva. Who else? Because the jiva is both. Therefore, and what's the jiva? Both. Para and apara. Therefore, it's you. We're talking about you. So you, the jiva, the witnessing principle, the observer is the para, Prakruti. The observer of the body-mind complex. And what is apara? Whatever is witnessed, perceived, remembered, thought of, felt, ahacht, you know when you have an aha, epiphemized,
Well, everything that is the objective.
anything intuited, intuition, apara, anything remembered, apara, whatever you can think of, apara.
Anything that can be objective.
Absolutely everything that comes out of your mouth is apara. So let's do a quick revision. So far, Krishna has said that so the whole manifestation is Ishwara, and this Ishwara is made up of para and apara, mixtures, and this mixture makes Ishwara, what you're experiencing now, which also existed before creation, not just now. Ishwara alone is. And we also said that evolution happens in 2 stages. For example, seed to plant to tree, embryo to baby, to adult. That baby is the intermediary stage. The plant is the intermediary stage. Now, one thing about para prakriti is it is beyond space and time attributes. In fact, this is the first verse in that book over there. You'll see it. Narayaniyam, fantastic book. Right from the first verse, they will beautifully say, Brahman is beyond space and time attributes. Para is beyond space and time attributes. And that is actually why consciousness remains changeless. Because if you think about it, what changes? For something to change, it needs to fall underneath a boundary principle of space. And even space itself, as the scientists and even Einstein will gladly, give you some formulas for that, said it changes, it expands. So you can say, oh, space is the same. Space is, well, okay, we understand it's the same, but what about its expansion or contraction? So even space itself changes. And when an object falls within space, because its parent, the space is changing, that means what? The child then has to be changing too, because it's pervaded by the changing principle of the space. And for an object to change, what does that mean? You need to give it time. Because you can give a tree a big space, but can you grow a tree in 1 minute? No. So when you have space, you automatically have time. And time is changing. You know that. So that means what? Without time, there is no space, and without space, there is no time. And time is going forward, or you can even remember time back. And therefore, because time and space are intertwined, it means they're changing. So therefore, consciousness alone is the unchanging, because why? It is out of space and time. It does not depend on the changing principle. And also, if you think about it like this, what do you always do every day? You say, are you constantly going, what's the time, right? Are you constantly going, the time is going fast or slow? What does that imply, to say time is going fast or slow? It implies there has to be a secondary principle other than time to say time is going fast or slow. You see that logic? How can you say time is going fast or slow unless you who is what? The conscious witnessing principle, are out of time in order to say that. And that you that we're speaking of, consciousness, is para prakriti. Otherwise, if you were time itself, you would not even worry about time. You know how we're always worried about, oh, I'm so busy, I need to get things done. Why? Because you are other than time. If you were time itself, you would not have any concept of going, I'm sorry, time, huh? What are you talking about? You would just be time itself. But that's clearly not true, because you're always looking at the clock. Therefore, what do we say about you? The jiva, para prakriti, is out of time, and who always speaks about time? You do. Therefore, you alone are para prakriti, the conscious principle, out of space and time. Now, regarding apara, so we're done with para prakriti, okay? Now, a little bit more about apara. Krishna says that this apara prakriti is the eightfold, and this apara is what? Matter, energy, principle. There's no difference between matter and energy. It is inert. You can't give consciousness to energy. Electricity is dead. It's just electricity. It's not sentient. So matter, energy is inert. Therefore, it is apara. And it consists of what? 5 elements. Panchamahabhuta. Scriptures talk about 2 types of elements. The first one is Sthula Panchamahabhuta. This means gross elements. Gross elements is your final product that you're experiencing right now. Your concrete, tangible, solid elements that we're experiencing right now. The second type is Sukshma Panchamahabhuta. These are the intermediary stage elements, 5 elements, which are subtle in nature. So in verse 4 and 5, we are talking about intermediary stage only. These 5 elements of these 8 are what? Subtle in nature. So in simple English, subtle equals intermediary stage, gross equals final product. We are now at what? Intermediary stage. Therefore, subtle elements. So we're speaking about the invisible space, the invisible water, the invisible fire, the invisible earth, the invisible air. The subtle space, air, fire, water, earth. We're not talking about this air that you breathe. This air that you breathe right now is what? Gross, sthula. And also, Krishna enumerates 3 more principles. The macrocosmic, manaha, the mind, macrocosmic buddhi, the intellect, and the macrocosmic sense of doership, the ahamkara. Caution, this is not Jiva's mind, intellect, and ahamkara. This is the total. Also, at this stage, remember, we don't have 14 lokas yet. I know you've not probably heard this before. When I say 14 lokas, look that up on fascinating Vedic model of creation. One of them is Burloka, the earth, and the physical bodies have not been created. Nothing has been created physically yet at this stage. You probably heard the Gayatri mantra, Bhur, Bhuva Swaha, Tat Savitur Varenyam. You heard that? Beautiful. So in other words, Tat Savitur Varenyam, in other words, Tat referring to that supreme reality I worship so that I may Bhur, Bhuva Swaha, elevate myself from what? This Bhur Loka, from this heavy, dense world that keeps pulling me down. Let's translate this into Big Bang. This is probably the next question is going to come up. How does the Big Bang come into this? I'm just going to equate it to give you some reference points. Stage 1, according to what the scientists will say. Out of nothing, they will say then, came the Big Bang. Now let's backtrack. Out of nothing, this nothing, they don't have an answer. What is this nothing? Stage 1. What is stage 1? 1 apara and 1 para. Came the Big Bang. What is the Big Bang? 8-fold apara. Because the Big Bang is not creation yet, remember? So Big Bang is the intermediary stage. In the Vedic tradition, this is called the navel of Lord Vishnu. It's just a different way. Scientists have Big Bang, we have different language. When the Big Bang explodes, it expands, it magnifies, and then what happens? Stage 3, creation. The whole world, all the universes are created. Let's do number 4 together. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritir ashtadha. Earth, water, fire, air, space, the 5 elements, the mind, intellect, and indeed the sense of doership, that Prakruti of Ishwara is divided in an 8-fold way. In other words, that apara is divided into an 8-fold way. Now let's do number 5. Apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagate. This, by the way, will be a little bit more tricky because you have to understand these words are, this is why if you look at this translation, it says here the mind, but it's actually, it comes from Sankhya philosophy. And Sankhya philosophy, you look at it a little bit deeper, these are technical words. So even Shankara's commentaries will say that the manaha is actually a confusing word. It should be translated into avyaktam. Avyaktam means potential. So I'm not going to get, but I'm just giving you a little pointer, because if you go elsewhere to another Gita class, they'll tell you about Avyaktam and tell you about Hiranyagarbha. You're like, Andre hasn't told us that. We already know that. I'm just keeping it simple, sticking with the Gita. It's not going to skew your understanding in any way. Okay, so number 5. Apareyam, that's apara iyam. So the eightfold apara is Ishwara's lower nature, lower inferior nature. In other words, it is the matter or energy principle of Ishwara. And both of them are achetana tattvam. They are inert principles. You're not going to find it there, I'm just telling you, because someone's looking at the board. It's like, what are you reading? Whereas the scriptures say that consciousness is the higher, superior nature, which is neither matter nor energy. Doubt. Often we think that energy is consciousness. That's going to come up often. Are you speaking about energy? Am I? Well, I'll say no, but then let's ask why. Give me some attributes of energy.
Attributes.
Huh?
Attributes.
Attributes.
It is changing.
Changing, yeah. It is subject to conversion from one to the other. For example, I have electrical energy. I introduce it into a fan. The fan energy, so it went from electrical, converted into a mechanical energy, and then it converts into sound energy because the fan spins, and then it converts into wind energy because it blows the air. And not only that, but if you think about energy has variances in what? Intensity. For example, electrical energy, you have 1 volt battery, or you have 100 million volts to 1 billion volts thunder. Big intensity change, right? So whenever we speak about energy, it is subject to intensity and its nature. Gravitational, mechanical, chemical.
It has attributes.
Yeah, in other words, it's constantly changing. So is that clear? Consciousness is not energy. And it's not subject to modification, as we already established. Oh, I remember when I had a lot of energy 5 years ago. Not anymore. Huh? In other words, energy changes. In time, I'm remembering 5 years ago. That means I was there 5 years ago. That's why I'm remembering 5 years ago. Okay, then what is consciousness? If energy is not consciousness, then what is consciousness? Yeah, right. That's what I've been right explaining.
That what's aware of it.
Consciousness is just consciousness. How do you define consciousness? Quite frankly, it's impossible. It's just conscious. Of what? Of itself. What do you mean? It's just conscious. Can you explain? I can't, because if I do, it's not conscious anymore. I'm being conscious of my explanations about consciousness. So consciousness is just consciousness. Awareness is just awareness. Okay, therefore, prakritim vidhi me param. May you know my higher nature, says Krishna to Arjuna. My higher nature being para. Remember, these two folks are still on the battlefield, right? They're still having a nice conversation for a long time so far. You know, the Kauravas might be really impatient so far, but we've got many more chapters to go. Okay, what is my higher nature other than my lower nature? What else could it be? Because there's only two options. Therefore, para is beyond any kind of scientific study, observation, postulation, hypotheses. You're not going to find anything about consciousness in quantum mechanics or quantum physics other than postulations. It's like, let's sit around a board meeting and let's discuss consciousness. Let's go to a consciousness meetup. You can't do that. The only way to know consciousness is very clear. Shastra number 1 to Acharya. That is the only way to access and be clear what this means to say consciousness. Any other way equals hypotheses, discussions. It's just endless. Again, where is para located? Shall we, can you Google that, someone? Well, let's go for a hunt for para, Prakruti.
In the jiva. In jiva.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's on all parts of the jiva.
Yeah. So, okay, so apara is within creation, and therefore para is also within creation. And is this body apart from creation? No. So therefore, wherever you think of creation, you have both. You cannot escape of either of these two. Okay, more important question. How do you know apara? Let's discuss some ways. How do you actually know what apara is?
Through the senses.
Okay, but how do you identify it? How do you go, oh, apara?
It's changing.
Yeah.
If you can be aware of it. then it's-
Yeah, okay, good.
Measure or define it.
Good. Yeah,
You're aware
okay.
of it, you're aware of it.
Okay, but suppose, let's put the gunas, this language away, all these technical terms, just to a normal person. What would we say? What's a good way to make a normal person,
Recognize it exists.
huh? It starts and ends. It begins and ends. It doesn't last. In other words, whatever you experience, feel, inquire into, postulate, hypothesize, philosophize, remember, imagine, intuit, desire. Come on, give me more words. Fear, love, enjoy.
I'm jealous of.
Jealous of. Want, don't want. Car. How did a car come in? Whatever car you want, okay, that's not going to last. It's going to have an ending inevitably. Sometimes people get hurt and they end up in a hospital and they're forced to stop thinking about those loved objects because now they're rethinking their life. So you see how their loved object can be falsified? Because it was depending on what? The health of the body. When the health is gone, then the object of love is no longer valid because the object of love depended on the healthy body. So mithya means, apara means, it can be falsified when the circumstances change.
Sorry, didn't we say that the common attribute between para and apara is that they're mithya?
No, the comment is that they're both eternal.
Yeah, they're both eternal. So
Yeah, apara goes into potential.
Okay. So how do we then say that apara begins and ends?
Yeah, okay, just how does a tree begin and end? You have a potential, it grows into a tree, it dies, and then where's the tree? It converts into different elements, it goes into the earth. So there's a transformation of energy from one to the next. That's what apara means. Candle burns, it transforms.
But then so when we're saying apara is time bound, we mean that it changes form.
Yeah.
But it's still eternal.
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Law of energy, of conservation of energy and matter. It lasts for maybe a long time, but it still changes. If you look at it closely, it still changes.
So it's synonymous with mithya.
Yeah. Okay, so far we have ruled out the world, the entire world, as apara. Whether you want to think about this world or the world you have in your LSD trips or whatever kind of worlds you want to think of, we have ruled that out. What about your body? Is that changing? It's too simple now, right? Yeah, I mean, we try to keep it healthy all we want, can't stop it. Right? You want to keep slim and trim? No, it doesn't work. Well, it does work for the moment that you're doing it, but look at your pictures 5 years ago. You'll be like, oh, I got all these freckles now. Okay, what about your mind? Is that para or apara? I mean, that's a violent storm, right, for some of us. Right, so many dramas in there. Right, try holding a thought for more than 5 seconds. Probably can't do it. I'll give you shall we make a bet right now, right? The bets are on. So far we have ruled out the entire world, everything that science can possibly tell you. You can go into a science class now, spend 10,000 years listening to these postulations, and you can, as a Vedantin, simply go, apara. Simple. The body, apara. The mind, apara. So you save yourself a lot of time, basically, from samsara chasing. All this juicy knowledge. Oh, I have to know this, I have to know this. I have to know what? Apara. I can falsify it. Okay, so how do you know apara? As body, mind, and the entire world. Why? Because I can observe it. I can recognize it to be what? Modifying in different shapes, form, size, attributes, characteristics, colors, flavors, in different expressions, movements. I observe it. And that one who is observing, they're not moving because you're observing. If you're observing what's modifying, that means what? The observer is not modifying. Now, how do you know para? We've now done, how do you know apara? How do you know para?
It's whatever is left.
Yeah, good. Good, which you cannot say, right? But you can only say whatever's left. Right. Very good. Okay.
Not this, not this.
Yeah. Whatever is left, and I cannot say what's left, because if I say what's left, that what I said is not left, of course. That's why I said it. Do you understand? Oh, you know, nothing's left. No. I'll tell you what's left. Consciousness is left. You see the mistake? I verbalized it. In other words, the word C-O-N, the alphabetical letters of consciousness was still there. And I had to verbalize it. Okay, Krish.
Sorry, just a quick question. When we're
There are always quick questions for you, right?
Not long questions, but I say that they're quick. Sorry, this idea of the witness is still flowing in my mind, because it is seemed like it is sort of a thing, observable. When we're talking about a creation and that, it seems like there is sort of no self, because everything is coming from that. But if I am aware of my thoughts, it does seem like there is an observer looking at them. So
Yeah.
it is objective in a sense.
Who's the observer of the observer?
Yeah, but you see, just to be telling me this now, because you just told me that, you know, there's a struggle, there's a, what's the word? You know, trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah.
So obviously you're now telling me about some principle that was there at that time, who was witnessing Coco trying to wrap his head around something, and that principle is still here now, telling me how there's a memory of this person trying to wrap their head around something. So obviously there's an unchanging principle from that memory all the way that survived all the way till today in order to tell me accurately that there is a process of trying to wrap my head around it. So the surviving principle from that moment when you first recognize that you're trying to wrap your head around it, that which survived, which is still here now, listening to these words, that is para. How clear are we on that out of 100%?
No, that is clear. It is clear. I just think maybe it's the mind is probably just...
Okay.
in and out,
Yeah, the mind's going to constantly like alter itself. Now I know, now I don't. This is totally normal. It takes some time, right?
Yeah.
So the teacher can only explain so much, but actually a lot of work has to be done on your part. Yeah. Okay, how do you know para? Krishna reveals whatever you can experience is apara. We already know that. But to experience, there has to be what? An experiencer, ER, of the experience. And therefore, para is none other than whom? Self. Self. See, Coco just told me about, you know, him observing some experience of trying to wrap his head around something. So that was an experience that Coco had. And there's an experiencer who was observing that. And that experiencer survived to now tell me about that struggle at some point, at some time. So therefore, para is the experiencer of the experience. The experiencer of the experienced. The experiencer of the experiencing. Experience, because everything happens in the mind, right? So everything is being experienced by whom? The experiencer.
And that's the problem with language, because the minute you use the word experiencer, automatically we're going to go to the sense of an object.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So language creates a problem in...
Yeah. And see, right now you're having an experience of telling me about this conversation. So that's para. Yeah.
That's why I like that word awareness. It's got less definitive boundary.
Yeah, we use different words, so
the
because...
awareness of the observer it seems to me to encapsulate the
Yeah,
idea.
good. That's why we use different words, because everyone's got these different preferences.
Can we also use the word witness?
With sakshiya.
here.
Yeah, witness. But we have to explain what these words are. We don't just throw them around like happens in the spiritual world. So we first define them. Like if you just use logic alone, in order to be the experiencer, it means what? You have to be a conscious principle, cetana tattvam, in order to be an experiencer. You can't be an experiencer if you are dead, if there is no consciousness. So what do we say about how do you identify para? Within an order, everything that can be witnessed is apara. What is witnessed, what is observed, is done by none other than, when I say done, I mean through the body, mind, intellect, is done through the jiva. But the jiva is conscious. So therefore the jiva is what? Para Prakruti, the observer, the experiencer. Okay, so who's observing the changes? Who observed this class beginning and now it's going to end soon? Who's observing that?
Self.
Yeah, the self. You know when we say myself, yourself, himself, herself, remove these words him, her, my, your. What remains? Self. So this word self is not that tricky. Myself. I want some for myself. Remove the word my. I want, just say for self. Okay? This kind of simplifies it because usually this my, your makes this separation between you and me. But there's only one self. Okay, so the 24/7 agent who is available all the time, looking at the experiences, witnessing the experiences, is none other than the observing jiva, the aware, the experiencer, the I am. That I am, aware, experiencer is para. And that para is you. Tat tvamasi. That thou art. This is a Mahavakya that's being revealed right here. That's why 7.5 is an amazing verse. It's actually telling you directly who you are. You, the jiva, is none other than whom? Para Prakruti. The very person that was looking for something is the very truth that's being looked for. So this means what? If I go into a meditation and I'm trying to look for something out there, some state, some kind of enlightenment at some time, what am I saying? I am actually saying that para is not here now. That means what? I can't find para, ever. I can only what? Own up that it's already here right now. This is why when this is understood, meditation or the need for meditation stops. Unless you want a quiet mind, unless you want a sattvic mind. But why do we mostly want meditation? Because we're trying to discover something. But the one who's witnessing, the person trying to discover, is para. Therefore, you will always never not present to yourself. You are always available to yourself.
I was kind of struggling with equating para with jiva because we've always come to that conclusion that jiva is the individual body, mind, intellect, and para is consciousness awareness. So now I come trying to reconcile these two, and the only way I can reconcile that is to say that parakrita is contained within the jiva rather than is equivalent with the jiva. Because there's more than one jiva, but there's only one para.
There's only one para, many jivas. So therefore, who's observing? None other than the jiva. So the jiva is the observing agent.
Isn't the Om in the circle on the diagram reflection of that?
Atman. That means Atman is...
Yeah.
So what we're talking about is Atman.
So that's what I'm trying to say. So essentially the self is the omnipotent universal,
Yeah.
and the jiva is multiplicity. So what we're saying is that if we're talking about a jiva, which one jiva, two jiva, three jiva,
Yeah.
you can only say that the para is
Yeah.
contained within the jiva, like the sun is reflected in the
The
Bhagavad
jiva
Gita.
is para. See, the wave is nothing but the water. That's all it is. Because now to say jiva is other than apara, or to put differences, now you're going back into duality. The jiva is just simply consciousness in different, apparently different expression through owning to its power of para and apara.
And if we say it's within, that would be a duality too. It'll just be.
Yeah.
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 So far, Krishna is saying mixture of para and apara. Para means what? The experiencer. Apara, experienced. Para means what? The observer. Apara means what? The observed. Are you observing this person now going like this? Yeah, therefore, who's observing that? You, the jiva. Therefore, you, the jiva, equals para prakriti. And then Krishna says, Mahabaho to Arjuna. Mahabaho basically says, oh Arjuna, powerful arms are not enough. Great archery skills are not enough. Negotiation skills are not enough. You better have a good intellect. That is much more important. Why? To know the difference between para and apara. Because see, you have to, let's bring this back to context. Where is Arjuna right now? He is about to have fights with his brothers, with grandsire Bhishma, with sage Drona, right? And he's about to not, he's what? He's afraid, he doesn't want to fight. But what is he looking at? Apara prakriti. And what is Krishna trying to tell him? The one commonality in all of these units, in all of these individuals is what? Para prakriti. And that para prakriti, you are, that para prakriti, your Duryodhana is, that para prakriti, Dushasan is, that para prakriti. The entire army, both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, all para prakriti. And you are giving reality, your fear is coming out of what? Thinking that you are killing your brothers. But you're only what? You're only destroying what can be falsified anyway. Because the body dies anyway. But you, your true nature is para prakriti. You see how Krishna is trying to let Arjuna know that there's nothing to fear to die in this war. In this war means life. It's not the actual war, but it's just a metaphor for life. Okay, Mahabaho Jiva Bhutam Vidhi. I'll just rearrange the words. Mahabaho Jiva Bhutam Vidhi. No, the para prakriti is my very consciousness, Arjuna. The very consciousness, the very jiva that you are. The very experiencer behind the body-mind complex. That's para prakriti. Just like electricity, for example. What does electricity do? Electricity, the one invisible electricity, blesses the fan. The fan was inert. Until electricity came into the fan, it made the fan what? Enlivened it. It made it alive. It made it functional. In the same way, the inert body-mind complex, when it's touched by consciousness, like this touch, when it's infused by consciousness, impregnated by consciousness, then it takes on a useful function. It becomes alive. It becomes like, wow, here I am, observing the world. Observing the world of what? Apara and para prakriti. Okay, ya yedam dharyate jagate. Because of this spirit or this consciousness alone, that is para, because of para, the entire material universe is sustained, is maintained and sustained. Because of what? Of para alone, because of consciousness alone, because of satyam alone. How is para experienced at a physical level? How do you experience para prakriti at a physical or prana level? I posed this question a couple of sessions ago. Don't tell me you can't, because we already know that.
You do. Is it like you said, the fact that you actually exist, you own up to it, that it must be there?
Okay, that's close. Yeah, that just silences everything. There's nothing more to say after that. Yeah. But there's but there's another way, because we need to sometimes take it down for the mind to assimilate it. So okay, so I'm going to ask the question: how do you know para at a physical body level. How do you know that you have consciousness?
Because I know that I'm here.
Because I heard the question.
Yeah, okay, good. All good answers. Simple answer, because you're alive. Because you're alert and alive. It's knowledge. It's not about an experience, as I keep saying. Just because I am alert and alive, here having this conversation with you, it means what? That's how I know I have consciousness. I know I said I have consciousness, we know that. But that's how I know consciousness is. Right here, right now. Because I am alive. The life principle alone equals para prakriti. No consciousness, no para equals no life. No alertness, no aliveness. You see, what we're trying to do is simply trying to make this, it's knowledge. It's got nothing to do with experience. The Shastras say so, that is para and apara. And what is para? Consciousness. Am I conscious? Yes. Am I alert, alive, and well? Fully paying attention? Absolutely. Therefore, because of that alone, I experience para prakriti. Because of this life principle that makes me alive. How do you tell the difference between sentiency and awareness? Sentiency means what? Responding, yeah. Now, how do you respond? If you were unconscious, could you respond? So just the fact that I'm responding means what? I have consciousness. And to respond is sentiency. So therefore, to respond to or through my sentiency means I am imbued with consciousness. To be sentient means the body, mind is blessed by para prakriti.
So that's the same for an animal as well.
Same for an animal, yeah. Chetana tattva. In other words, conscious principle. Except animals have, program. They cannot be self-aware. They're simply acting out.
No, but in terms of responding, I mean, if you called an animal's name, like a dog's name, and it turned around and looked and came to you, then it's responding.
Yeah, it's responding from the aspect of program. It's not responding from the aspect of free will. But it's still responding.
So the difference between sentient being and jiva would be the intellect that jiva has, and sentiency doesn't require. Would that be correct?
Sentiency just means the body is infused.
So you have body-mind in case of
Okay, the fan is sentient. Why? Why is it activating? Why is it working? Why is it blowing and being functional? Why is the fan doing all that?
Is that defined as sentient?
Because of electricity alone.
Yes.
So the fan is sentient. Why? Because of electricity. Can the fan know about electricity? No. It can only own up the fact that it's spinning means what? It is infused, it is conscious. The fact that I am alive, functional and well means what? That consciousness is traveling through this body. It is knowledge, it is not an experience.
You're using the fan as an analogy, you're not calling the fan conscious.
Oh, I am actually.
I wondered about that.
You understand? It's an important analogy. The fact that the fan is working, it is imbued with electricity. The fact that the body is alive means it's sentient, means it's imbued with consciousness.
But also the thing about the free will with the dog, for instance. I mean, if you've got a dog with you and it's not on a lead, and it sees something on the other side of the road and starts to run for it, and you say, "You stop, come here," and it momentarily stops and looks at you and then makes a decision. Am I going to chase that, or am I going to do as I was told and come back? There's a free will point at that, where it decides one or the other, surely. Isn't that free will?
No. Program takes over.
If the dog's been trained to respond, then it will have no choice but to stop.
But if it disobeys you and just runs anyway, then...
Well, then the dog's program for that impulse was stronger than the impulse for being stopped. It just depends on the impulse level. Okay, let's extend this entire teaching now to the macrocosmic level, to the entire samashti level. Samashti means macrocosmic. So because when you look at creation, it's in harmony, right? Harmony means you don't worry about waking up tomorrow and falling off the planet because you know gravity is going to be there. So there's an order to this. So this harmony is the intelligent principle, sustained by the intelligent principle, made possible by the intelligent principle. And what is the intelligent principle? Para prakriti. Wherever you look around you, harmony. There's something you can use. There's something you can, you use air, you use food. we use honey. Honey uses the pollen. The pollen uses the soil. The soil uses the rain. The rain uses the clouds. The clouds use the sun for the water to evaporate into the clouds. That water depends on the oceans. So everything has a useful, intelligent principle imbued into it. Why? Because of para prakriti alone. Because of this all knowledge principle. So this means that the world is as though functioning like, when I say the world, I mean the entire universe, Jagat, as though a conscious cosmic person, para, a cosmic big person. That's why in religion, for example, did you ever notice we instinctively look up when we try to seek the higher? Something goes wrong. You don't look in your fridge, oh God. You don't look underneath the table. Huh? You always look up, oh God. Why? Why do we always look up instinctively? As though I'm looking up to a cosmic person. It's instinctive, it's built in. This cosmic person we call Purusha. For example, an analogy. The bacteria in your stomach are, let's say the good bacteria, we'll put the bad bacteria aside, but there's always a good and bad bacteria, isn't there? The good bacteria in your stomach, when they want some food because they're hungry, who do they look up to? They go like this, oh God, please. Who are they looking up to? The one who is sustaining them. Who is that? You. The you Purusha. So to them, you are the cosmic Purusha. You're the cosmic person. Because they entirely depend on the total of you. And it is through you alone where they get what? Created, they get born, they get sustained by you, and they get destroyed by you. You have the power. One pill, boom, they're gone. They're only sustained because of your principle, because of your existence. Without you, they're gone. And they're all going, oh, I wish I understood who is this big cosmic person. So let's investigate a little bit more into this cosmic person. What is this cosmic person referring to in the first place?
Ishwara.
Good. Now we extend that. When Ishwara plays the role of the creator, sustainer, destroyer, we call that Purusha. Just like when the person, Purusha, plays the role of a policeman at work, does the function, and then plays the role of a soft daddy, hard policeman, soft daddy when he comes back home. So what is the person doing? Playing roles. Is the person affected by those roles? Is the person identified with those roles? No, because they're free to be a policeman, they're free to be a daddy. Therefore, the Purusha is not affected by whom? Actions and the consequences of the roles that are being played. And this Purusha, this cosmic person, dharyate, sustains. So now you're going to say, okay, what does it mean to sustain? What do you mean it sustains? So Ishwara sustains, or Ishwara is the cause of all effects. Just like you, the person, are the cause of all of the effects of whatever is going on in your body. Every single individual part in your body is a different world of itself. And you, the total you, are the cause of all of these effects. Ishwara is the cause of all effects on both the macro and the micro, on every scale. So let's give you an analogy. Suppose that your little finger has little 2 eyes and a brain, so it can think for itself, right? That's so that its whole world is just finger, right? And it asks the question, I wonder what's out there, and I wonder who I am. I wonder what is my true nature. But remember, your nose also has 2 eyes and a nose and a brain. So the nose is also thinking, I wonder who I am. What is my true nature? The ear also has a world of its own. So in other words, the finger has, thinks about the world. The nose thinks. So every component on you, the toe thinks about the world. Every component is inquiring, what is the nature of all this? What is the truth of all this? And yet they all share the world that they are limited to. The finger only knows fingering. The nose only knows nosing. The toe only knows toeing. The finger cannot know about the world of the toe. The nose does not know about the world of eye. They're totally different functions. And yet, what do all these functions do? Create the total you. So all of these different worlds, you put them together, you have the one total Purusha. Who is the truth of all of these individual parts? What's the truth? If the little finger says, who am I wonder what is the truth of all of this. What's the answer to that?
You.
Exactly. And that you refers to what? The total self, the total you, the total Purusha. If the toe asks the same question, the answer is the same. Why? Because the finger is attached to the whole, the toe is attached to the whole. Whoever asks the question is part of the whole Purusha. Therefore, the truth of you, of the Purusha, is the truth of every single individual part whose totality makes up the total you, the total Purusha. There's actually no difference between them. Now question, what is the truth of the Purusha? See, we're going next level now, next step.
Created by Brahman.
Good. Okay, so Brahman is consciousness. What is consciousness? Para Prakruti. Why is the truth of the Purusha consciousness? Because to play the role of, what does the Purusha do? Create, sustain, destroy. Clear on that? Mm-hmm. To be the creator, the sustainer and destroyer, I have to be conscious. How can you create without being conscious? How can you destroy without being conscious? So therefore, to play the role of these three, I need to be self-aware. I need to be conscious of what I'm doing. I need Satchidananda. I need self-evident, awareful existence, in whose presence I can intelligently design. I can intelligently build all this. I can intelligently create, sustain, and destroy. So this means the finger, for example, who's trying to understand the whole, which it will never do. Why? Why can the finger never understand the whole? Because all the finger knows is the world of its limitations. You understand? Every individual is limited to just its function. The toe only knows how to toe. The eye only knows how to eye. So if the eye tries to take the function of the toe or the finger, that's not going to work. Because Ishwara the total Purusha has assigned the finger to just perform the function of fingering, nosing, earring. This is what you call self-acceptance. I accept myself as I am, as my function, and I gladly choose to undertake that. So, final question. What is the only thing the finger needs to know? You're the finger. Whatever organ you want to be, you're that. What's the only knowledge that the finger has to know?
It's part of the whole.
The identity with the hand.
Its function.
Okay, no, because it is the function. It does its function all its life, so that's pretty self-evident.
That it exists.
For you,
If it was a real seeker, it could know the hand.
Yeah.
But it would have to be an enlightened finger to be able to know the arm or the shoulder.
So the only truth, the only fact, the only knowledge that the finger has to know is the truth of the total Purusha is the same truth of the microcosmic Purusha. And what's the truth of both, the macrocosmic and the microcosmic Purusha? Limitless consciousness, para Prakruti. Therefore, you're never away from the highest knowledge, from the highest truth. You're always it already right now. Whether you like it or not, you're already the truth. You're already the absolute. And this alone you need to know and deeply assimilate to permanently end the cycle of rebirth. If I deeply assimilate this, contemplate this through mananam and nidhyasanam, that alone is what stops the end of rebirth. It's that simple. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, let's put this in the chart. I said chart last week, so obviously we have a chart. Here we go. What we spoke about is Ishwara, which is what? Apara and Prakruti. The truth of Ishwara is Brahman alone. And then we talked about the total mind, total intellect, total ahamkara, 5 elements. And this Prakruti is what pervades all of these units. And because it does so, these units get to experience the world. Get to experience and say, wow, or yay, or nay, or whatever it is. Only because of this Prakruti alone, which is not only Brahman.
How would it fit in with the model of creation with the 3 gunas? There we had.
Yeah.
It seemed like Rajas and Tamas were the Apara Prakti, and it sort of seemed like the intelligence or the conscious principle was somehow Sattva, but I'm not sure if it...
Yeah, remember when I said at the beginning that Upanishads speak of dozens of different ways to approach this? You're just speaking about a different way than I've just taught. You're talking about Maya, so you can put, see Brahman, Ishwara? Now from Ishwara you have Maya, right here, created potential, Avyaktam, unmanifested Maya. Out of that Maya comes Hiranyagarbha, but in between you have these guna combinations coming together. So Maya is nothing but 3 gunas put together, and these 3 gunas mix together in different proportions to create everything that comes after. So everything after here, all gunas. It's just a different model.
Yeah.
And usually we don't mix them together because then it's really confusing and contradictory.
That's why it was a Sunday class.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's, I understand it's different, and that's just if you look at Krishna Upanishad, it's going to be a little bit different, right? So, but at the end of the day, all I can say is they all come together, and if you want simplicity, just look at the Gita. You cannot go wrong with the Gita model. Para apara, satya mithya, that's it. Okay, you're now satisfied how creation is made?
I can assimilate this a bit.
Okay, next week, verse 6, we will now step out of intermediary stage and go into the physical creation stage.
Question about the relationship between apara and para. Is there any reason for it to be...
Oh, I just did this today because it's like a nice symbol of infinity. So it's just a pretty symbol. I thought I'd just put a circle, it's too boring, so I just put this. Now, so Brahman here, this is from the aspect of no creation. All of this, everything after Brahman, we have to create these charts and these talks and these Vedanta classes, all because of what? From the standpoint of creation. That's why we have this complexity. Without any of this, without the dream going on, you don't need any of this. What is there to say? You're Brahman alone. That's the shout, you always, jump to the conclusion. This is only Brahman. So don't get caught up in these terms, right? You just have to use some terms to explain how it all happens. But just know you're Brahman alone, that's it. As we explained, you're always conscious, and consciousness is Brahman.